Hey, what's up? So I wanted to share my thoughts on Space Marine 2, which I've completed the campaign and I've played a bit of co-op. I think there's 6 missions for co-op that are specifically alternate routes from the main campaign that you don't play through the main campaign, and there's 6 separate missions that you play co-op that tell you, like, to show the other part that you miss when you play through. I don't. So far while playing it, like, I recognize the parts I'm playing through. I didn't memorize like the specific part of the story, so I'm just like, this is cool. It's cool little additional missions to do. That work. It reminds me of like the alternate paths in Gears of War, kind of. Like if you played the game again, you could take the different path, which doesn't really do a whole lot or anything. But no, so it's cool that they have those extra co-op missions. That's pretty neat. I have not tried PvP yet, not yet. I probably will get around to it. I liked it in part one. I liked the PvP in the first game. I've seen people complain about it in discussion, saying it's bare bones or whatever. Even in reviews, it said that. I'm like, part one was kind of bare bones too, and it was fun. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I think it kind of makes sense they didn't go too deep. It would depend on how the player base goes, but I mean, it's going to be a casual, like what niche kind of player base for the PvP or whatever, right? Which is fine. But yeah, no, I like the PvP in the first game, so I do plan to get around to playing it in this one. I just haven't yet. So that's where I'm at as far as like completion in the game. I have one more co-op mission that I haven't completed yet. And I beat the campaign, and I did love it. Like I want to make this clear before I continue into my notes. If this was the first kind of this type of game that I ever played in my life, this would be one of the most memorable games, right? Like from then on, I would probably, if this were my first like third-person shooter game like this and whatever, it would be what I would compare every other third-person shooter game to, because it's that good. But since it's not the first of its kind and it is a part 2, I have plenty of complaints, but I just wanted to share just general thoughts because I did love the game. It was rough, man, because like for a while, for at least a few hours, I'm like, look, this game is cool, but I'm bored out of my damn mind. And a lot of it, because like a lot of it reminds me of part 1. I was like, it didn't seem like they learned a lot from part 1, really, because it's almost the same exact game. And I don't mean that as an insult, because I loved part 1, okay? I don't mean, that's not an insult, okay? I'm not insulting the game. It's just a little weird. So no, I don't expect like a fully new, never been done before kind of a thing. It is a sequel. Like, of course, it's going to be familiar. I just wasn't expecting the same exact kind of, like, I'll give you one of my biggest complaints from the first game was the big empty open areas, man. Not too really worth exploring, for the little secrets. It's just such a big waste of time running around. That's all it is, just a big waste of time. It's not even fun to walk around these big empty friggin' areas, these huge, enormous empty hallways, man. It's just dumb. So that same thing is back in this game. There's a lot of big empty, just nothing, just walking through, and it's so perfect for like where waves of enemies could come and you could have an action game. I guess maybe they pace it in a way that it doesn't overwhelm you and you play for like 10 minutes and you're like, I can't play anymore. It's too much. It's too much. Like, maybe, I don't know. They don't want it to be too hectic, but it's, a little too slow. But anyways, so as far as like the hordes in this game too, and the visuals are just incredible, right? Like the graphics are so beautiful, the environments and the amount of detail is it's so beautiful. It's a really beautiful spectacle, because like the background, like the wars going on in the background, the enormous stuff everywhere, the hordes of enemies that you do actually fight, like a lot of them, but it's not quite in the sense of like that horde in the background. You get to see them, which is great because they actually come at you. Like, they come from the background and they come into the game in the foreground, and you fight these enemies, right? So that's super cool. The detail that goes into that is really impressive, very nice. The way that the map design is, you can see like something over there and it's off in the distance, and the whole time you're actually walking through these enormous friggin' areas, and you're going from one part to another that you saw 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, and now you're here. It's like, whoa, man. It's cool. It's pretty neat. But yeah, so the hordes, though, as far as the the enemies, they do come into the foreground. You do fight them, but it's like 10 to 15 enemies at a time, kind of average, like 10 to 15 enemies. I think here and there you get like 20 to 30, but they're the little ones. Like if you're gonna add up all the enemies that come up on the screen, there's gonna be a bunch of little ones that you one shot, you just pop off, boop 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 boop, you know, right? So they're gone pretty quickly, so it's not like this massive amount of enemies constantly on the screen. But there is a nice feeling as far as that horde. There is a good feeling of that, except for the pacing, which I had already mentioned about the, you know, the walking through the map and just I was like, come on, that's the one thing I didn't want from part 1 back in this game, was just walking through freaking enormous halls of no action and nothing happening. You know, it's a beautiful world and stuff, right? It's cool to walk through, but it's just like, dude, what the heck, man? Give me some action. Yeah, so I found myself bored through the first half of the game, even though the gameplay is fun. The story is kind of cool. But it was just, you know, pacing, just walking through. Anyways, I was thinking about the story too. I don't even know if I wrote this down as a note, but I'm always reminded, look, man, every time I see like the soldiers, like Space Marines, they're doing their thing. It's a sci-fi fantasy, which is really cool because they've got like wizardry, you know, they've got magic, they've got like all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. They've got their religions, you know. So every time I see them like and they're doing their cult stuff, I'm like, oh, they're a bunch of Nazis. It's just funny to me, all right? It's just because that's what they remind me. They remind me of freaking Nazis. But every army does, and military. That's what I think, man. It's just whatever. I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just saying. Anyways, it's funny. All right, so let me get in my notes. I hadn't even started my notes yet, so let's see what we got here. One of the first things I had noticed was every interaction is a hold button with no game options to switch it to press, which is fine. It's not like I don't hate the game for it, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad, you know. I have enjoyed the options now, and a lot of games now have started to do this, where in the gameplay options or the what they call accessibility options, you can now. There's more and more games are doing it where you can switch from button mashing to button pressing and stuff like that. Like that's cool. I like that as an option. So that was something that I noticed in this game. Was you have to hold the button to interact with everything, including picking up ammo. And there's no option to just make it a button press, which is just a minor annoyance, you know, no big deal. It'd be cool to have an option. Unrewarding exploration, just like the first game. Punch flowers, open doors was just a fun little thing I noted, because like it's early on in the game, and it's not every door, but there were little parts on, you know, this planet where you punch your fist into a big old flower, and then you open up a door, and it was just, I just thought it was neat. It was funny. Something I felt like I just felt like noting that down because I thought it was funny. This is an interesting one. I like this a lot. AI usually lets you get the finisher kill 99% of the time. It's crazy to see, because like sometimes I'm like, dude, please just finish that enemy off, man. Like, come on. But it is cool. The AI will literally, like, once the enemy reaches the health point where you can finish it, your bot partners will stop. They'll just stop and they'll turn around and walk away to let you get it. It's so funny. It kind of ruins the immersion a little bit, but it makes sense as a gameplay thing, right? Like, to me, it just makes sense. It makes sense as a gameplay thing that the AI is designed to let you do what you need to do. Like, if it were in the sense of mechanics like the first game, where I forgot. I don't even know if I had it noted here. I'm not a fan of the stim. Oh my gosh, I've seen the complaints. I'm like, yeah, I agree. Stim is stupid. The way they did the health regen is but it doesn't ruin the game for me or anything. It doesn't ruin the game at all. But I did like that the AI, like you can watch them, even if their AI is meleeing the enemy, but you can watch the AI and you'll see them just stop. They'll just stop attacking and just walk away, and then they'll just stand right next to you, just standing there while you do the finish. You got this ultimate super crazy finisher kill, and they're just like la la la. That's funny, man. I like it though. Like, it's cool as a gameplay mechanic that, you know, they let you finish them off. They do finishers as well, but what they'll do is, it's kind of cool. It's actually pretty well done, because like they usually, the only time they'll do a finisher is if you're finishing a different enemy near the enemy that they would normally let you finish. So yeah, it's rare though. It's rare. You're almost always getting every finisher no matter what, unless you're playing co-op. That's different. But I'm talking about the AI. So I like that. I thought that was cool. You can walk through your AI teammates so they won't block off doors. That's cool. I like that. Why they call that like collision or whatever. I think that's the same in co-op too. So that's just a cool little thing. I like. That's neat. You know, it can be annoying when you've got your AI, or even in co-op or, you know, PvP, and you're walking through the levels and stuff, and then you all get stuck in a door because that collision thing. So it's nice to be able to walk through, your teammates and stuff. I did mention this excellent consistency of map design, walking long distances. You can see far away from it, and then you end up there. That's cool. I just thought that was cool. Let me see a couple. Oh, that's right. There is a specific level. I wrote a note down. I don't really want to mention. I do think this is a spoiler. I'm just gonna mention there's a really cool level like towards-ish the end of the game. It's a little bit different than the other stuff, and it was amazing. And also, the entire final act was incredible, and this was what was crazy to me, because halfway through it, I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of feeling like crap about this. I kind of regret my purchase a little bit, not massively, but I could have waited for a sale. And then by the time I was finished, I was like, that was amazing. So the whole final act was really, really, really good. Like, the entire final act was just cool, man. It was so cool. It was epic. And the whole game is great. It's a lot of epic throughout the whole game. But the pacing, like I said, but the final act was just like, my gosh, man. kind of Gears of War too, right? Because I remember that about the Gears of War games too. Kind of boring through most of it, and then you get to the end, and it's like, whoa, that was so badass, you know? All right, let me see what else I got here. Oh, this was a complaint. I had audio. You can't hear NPCs for story when moving ahead of them. Right, when you're walking ahead of the NPCs and they're behind you and they're yapping, they're actually talking about the story, what's going on there, and it's not like super important, but it's conversation that you would want to be aware of. Like, that's when they're talking about what you're doing in the game and story wise and stuff. And this is what some people would revert to as realism. Like, oh, it's realistic because you're ahead of them, so you got it, whatever. But as far as gameplay and like missing out on what they're saying just because you're moving through the map is terrible. So it's just dumb, whatever. Yeah, health regen requires stim, which sucks. It's just not a fan of the stim mechanic in this game. Like, I don't know why they decided to go with this. It's been a while since I played the first game. I just remember liking it, and I had recently played, like a few months ago. I started playing the game again. But I only got like an hour or two into it, and it's been long enough I already forget exactly what happens there. But I'm just curious why they decided to switch over to the stim pack thing. Weird, yeah. I'm like, I'd have to play the other one and be like, oh, I guess that makes sense. I don't know if they did it just to have an update to the game or what. Not a fan though, not a fan. It's fine. It doesn't ruin the game. It's just a different approach. Your armor is your main thing anyways. Like, the shield is actually like your main defense mechanism. So as long as you can keep your armor up, your health really doesn't matter all that much. I mean, I've had low health in co-op and in the campaign, like at nothing. As long as my armor's on, I'm good. It's funny. Anyways, let me see, where was I? Main NPC on radio. Oh yeah, can't understand. At first, this was a note I had because there's a main character that's talking you through the radio and stuff. But it was also multiple characters at different times. Not as many, but like there were multiple characters that have like these robot voices, and I could understand half of what they were saying. Like, and I'm just like, one of them, I forgot I wrote one of their names down. Is Archmagus Nozick was one of the characters I could barely understand. I was like, oh man, this is what you use subtitles for, because I usually for a while now I turn off subtitles whenever I can if it's an option. Games that don't have an option to turn off subtitles make me so mad. I'm like, what the heck? Anyways, so that's so it's just a little note on that. Empty walking like the first game. Exploring is an enormous waste of time for the most part. Terrible combat balance. Oh, you know what? I didn't go deep in this in my notes. I probably wrote it to remind myself but the combat balance, it's just a little disappointing. Well, I say little, but it's a big deal, and it's an impact because like the melee feels useless. It's not useless. The melee is good. You just have to be smart about it. You can't. It'd be way more fun if you could just go and melee everything, right? It'd be more fun. I mean, you just smash, melee everything. But no, you get your ass beat hard if you try to focus melee. You gotta be smart about the melee, which is fine. That's actually cool. It's just it feels less powerful. It just feels less powerful. It's like, well, it's cool that I can melee, but I don't feel like a badass while I'm doing it. You know, like it's cool and it's fun, but it's like I'm getting my ass kicked kind of a thing. So it's a little weird. But you know, it just takes getting used to, and also there are the different classes, and the different like melee weapons. Yeah, it's mostly going to be a shooter. So, which reminds me, it also put me in the mood to go play Dark Tide. I was like, all right, I saw it on a deal right now, and I was like, all right, you know, I'm going to finally play that because I liked the beta. I played the Warhammer Dark Tide beta. Yeah, and I liked it. I thought it was really cool. I was expecting massive amounts of DLC after seeing what they did with the Vermintide games. I'm like, oh man, there's gonna be like freaking 30 freaking expansion packs and crap, and I don't want to deal with that. It was actually the main reason I didn't jump on that game when it came out, and I was like, I don't want to have to buy a bunch of DLC and whatever. But anyways, yeah, so the Dark Tide is really super cool and melee focused. So Space Marine 2 more shooter focused, and Dark Tide is melee focused. From what I've seen and played so far, anyways. I love Dark Tide. It's really cool. All right, let's see. I think a few things I would have liked in this game: more animations for melee and smoother feel for the attacks. Yeah, it's a little. It's kind of one of those like. I mean, it's an old school game-ish feel. Since it's not melee focused, it's like, you know, 3 swings and that's it. Kind of, you reset your animation, kind of a thing. So it'd just been nice if it was a little smoother for the melee, even with it feeling not as powerful as I would like it to feel. The two-handed hammer is badass. The hammer, like in part 1, it's badass. But yeah, I just would have liked like smoother kind of melee stuff. Would have liked more action between walking, less walking through nothing. You know, more enemies to fight while going through. Not expecting or needing innovation, but did expect better and smoother gameplay than the first game. Yeah, like, you know, and again, I'm not trashing on it or anything. I don't mean to, anyways. That's not my intent. It's just it's not a like noticeably better improvement gameplay wise from the first game. It's mostly the biggest noticeable upgrade is the visuals. It was kind of like playing part 1 again, but like in a better universe, kind of, you know, better visually, whatever. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? It just would have been nicer to have like more obvious improvements is all. No big deal, you know. Oh yeah, and then a final thing. I don't know why this is under my would have liked. I think I just mixed up a couple notes or whatever. But it takes a couple minutes for me for the game to actually shut down and exit. Like when I click on quit game, maybe not a couple minutes, but it's an exaggerate, like about a minute, man. And it takes a while to shut down. I'll click quit game. And it just like sit here on that like exit game screen, and I have to wait like a minute. Let me see. I encountered a bug where there's constant blood around the screen. Like, you know, when you get like low health and does that like bloody effect around the screen or whatever. I experienced this for a while, like an hour or two that I can remember. At least I didn't time it all, so I know I saw it for like an hour or two where I was like full health out of combat, and now I had like this bloody thing around the screen. Not a big deal. Let's see. And then something I wrote just for fun. Let's see. Something about on the forums. People are saying to play other games for PvP because it was just tacked on. So people were complaining here and there, like, you know, normal stuff. People are complaining a little bit about the balance between classes, I guess, for PvP. And and some people are telling them, play other games for PvP. That's just the stupidest thing. And I just wanted to, that is really stupid. The PvP number 1 in this game is a lot of fun, and people want to play it. Wow, like, what is wrong with people, man? Like, no, I don't want to play a different PvP game. I want to play this PvP game. That's why I'm talking about this PvP in this game, because I like this PvP. Anyways, that's just a funny one for me. I just felt like talking about that real quick, because it's just silly when I see stuff like that. A few cool quotes from the game that I saved just because they were good ones. One of the quotes is, you will be assaulted by lies and illusion. Yeah, non-stop every day of our lives. And then another quote is, what is the price of betrayal, death? And I'm like, I wish this were true in real life. I mean, it doesn't need to be, but you know, some kind of accountability maybe would be nice. Another quote, rules should never make a prisoner of intelligence. And I was like, oh, damn, that's a good one. We're living in that world where there's no accountability for betrayal or deception, and you know, rules are a prisoner of intelligence. They make a prisoner of intelligence. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy that we're actually living in that. Anyways, so the game was pretty cool. Those were all my notes, and I know I had like probably a few other thoughts just generally about the game, but that covers it. So I really did like it, and I don't. I would like to flesh this out and put more words and write it out and do this big old thing, but at the same time, I'm just like, whatever. So the game was cool. Yeah, like, it was cool. I don't regret, you know, spending full price on it, but I could have waited. You know, that's all. So that's a hard one to pick. Like, if you got money to throw at it, like it's, you know, like I said, like I loved it. Like little bored because of the pacing. You know, but by the time it was over, I was like, damn, that was amazing. And if I was young and that was the first game like this kind that I'd ever played, I would base every future game from then on to this game. I'm like, is it as good as Space Marine 2? Oh, it's not? Never mind. That's kind of like, that's what I was thinking. But, you know, like, I loved the first game too. Yeah. All right. So anyways, I'll talk to you later. I want to say more. I think there's probably a few things I might be forgetting, but that's what I got for now. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.